Hello and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're diving straight into one of the absolute most important topics for intermediate first-year political science students. We are talking about sovereignty. Now, think of a state, a country. It has borders, it has citizens, it has laws. But what is the actual engine driving all of that? What gives a state the right to exist and actually govern? Well, that engine is sovereignty.
So, here's a question I want you to really ponder. Who truly holds the ultimate, uncontrolled power in a state? We see prime ministers come and go, presidents get elected and voted out, ruling parties shift all the time. The faces of government are constantly changing. So when the dust settles, where does the real unshakable power actually live? That is exactly the mystery we're going to solve today.
To get to the bottom of this, let's look at how the heavyweight political thinkers defined it. Jean Bodin, a famous French political philosopher, hit the nail on the head. He defined it like this: sovereignty is the permanent supreme power over citizens and subjects. Now, focus on that word right there, permanent. Bodin is telling us this isn't just some temporary lease on power. It's the absolute highest authority, and it definitely doesn't just evaporate when a leader's term ends. It sits way above everyone, citizens and subjects alike.
And then you have another prominent thinker, Willoughby. He famously called it the supreme will of the state. It's kind of like the brain and central nervous system of a nation. It's the whole foundation for making laws, executing them, and keeping the peace. Without this supreme will, a state literally couldn't function. It'd just be a chaotic crowd of people.
Okay, so to spot sovereignty in the real world, we look for 5 key features: absoluteness, universality, permanence, indivisibility, and unity. We'll explore each of these and then wrap it all up with a quick exam summary.
Number 1, absoluteness, the ultimate authority.
When we say absoluteness, we mean the state's power is supreme and ultimate. No ifs, ands, or buts. There is literally no higher power. Every single institution, every association, and every individual has to work strictly within its limits. But, and this is a super important point for us studying modern political science, in a democracy like India, this absolute power isn't just wild, unchecked authority. It is safely exercised within the boundaries of the Constitution and the law. So the power is absolute, for sure, but it's channeled through constitutional rules to actually protect you, the people.
Moving on to number 2, universality, covering everyone.
Imagine sovereignty as this giant invisible umbrella covering the entire territory of a nation. The catch? No one can step outside of it. Everything under that sky is covered. It doesn't matter if you're an everyday citizen, a massive multinational corporation, a powerful social institution, or a local government body. You are all under that umbrella. Absolutely nobody, no matter how rich or influential, is outside the reach of the state's sovereign power. It applies universally to all.
Feature number 3, permanence, the unchanging core.
Now this is an area where it's super easy to get tripped up. People often confuse the government with the state, but they are completely different beasts. The government is totally temporary. Political parties win, they rule for a few years, and then they lose and new rulers come in. But sovereignty, that is permanent. Think about India. Since independence, governments have changed dozens of times. Different prime ministers, different coalitions, but the sovereign power of the Indian state itself, it hasn't paused for a single second. Governments are really just temporary managers of the state's permanent sovereignty.
Next up, number 4, indivisibility, the undivided power.
This brings us to a highly testable contrast for your exams. You know how daily government powers are divided, right? You've got the legislature making laws, the executive enforcing them, the judiciary interpreting them. That's the separation of powers. We split up the chores. But the actual sovereignty, the very soul of the state, cannot be divided. You can't slice up sovereignty and just hand half of it over to another country. You can divide the daily tasks, but the ultimate authority remains entirely 100% whole.
And finally, number 5, unity, the single sovereign.
This one connects right back to what we just talked about. First off, there is only one sovereign power in a state. You can't have 2 ultimate bosses, it just doesn't work. Second, all those massive institutions, the parliament, the central government, the Supreme Court, they're only using delegated powers. They basically borrow their authority from the Constitution. None of these institutions actually possess independent sovereignty. They just act on behalf of the one, single, unified sovereign power of the state.
All right, let's bring it all together. Section 6, Exam Summary, the mental screenshot.
Here is your ultimate cheat sheet for the exams. Absoluteness, supreme power above all else. Universality applies to absolutely everyone within the borders. Permanence continues forever, totally untouched by changing governments. Indivisibility, The core power cannot be transferred or given away. And unity. Sovereignty is one single entity and just cannot be split up into competing factions.
So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to share a fantastic, concise summary from the folks at MEBA Education. Sovereignty is the supreme internal and independent external ultimate power of the state. A huge thank you to MEGA Education for helping ground our analysis today. But before we sign off, I'm going to leave you with one final thought to ponder as you study. If governments constantly change, but the state's power remains completely permanent, who truly shapes that permanent power in a modern democracy? Is it the Constitution, the institutions, or ultimately, is it you, the people? Thanks for learning with me today, and keep asking those big questions.